Welcome back to the Hey Soul Sister podcast. We're joined by a true powerhouse in the world of inner transformation. Tanya, a best-selling author and a leading expert in psychological projection. She's the visionary behind Inner Beauty Experts. Through transformational courses, business support, and personal guidance, Tanya helps women in wellness rise from inside out. As a Gaia partner, she's helping conscious media reach those on a journey of healing and awakening. And as a passionate content creator, she's sparking self-awareness and self-worth across social media. Get ready for a deep, insightful, soul-nourishing conversation that'll inspire you to see your reflection and your power in a whole new light. Let's dive in. Welcome, Tanya, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on. If anybody saw the bloopers that we just went through before this intro, check out our social media. You might see some. So Whitley and I are so excited to have you on, mainly because this really resonates with us and our audience, like the women that are listening and maybe men too. So today I think we're going to dive deep, right? So first question I have to ask you is, how did you get started on this journey of yours? And I know it's probably long-winded, but that's okay. We like it. So we want to understand who Tanya is and where your journey began helping others.
Well, like most people, my journey began through trauma, through all of that stuff. Where did it start? Well, I would say it really started with my daughter, but it did start a little before that. So I was born with a blood disease that attacks the kidneys. It's called FSGS. And they say it's this lifelong disease that just completely, like, you have to go through multiple transplants, multiple things like that. And I was also born into family with alcoholism, drug abuse, stuff like that. So there was a lot growing up. And I did not have any awareness of stuff. You know, there was no social media, no nothing either. A lot of us just kind of like floated about our day. But my mom had a little bit of it. She grew up, she was meditating. She was kind of trying to break free herself of like religion and things like that because her family was very religious. So I saw her doing certain things and like, oh, vision boards. And she would start, and she took a psychology class, and she went into kind of really into that. So I was influenced by that, by reflecting, but at the same time, I had no concept of anything. And I got really, really badly bullied in high school. They tried to burn my hair. They tried to beat me up every day. It was horrific. And it was a group of like 15 people just following me around. I had to hide all the time. It was just, anyway, pretty bad. And then back like further right after high school, my kidneys were already failing from birth, but they were like rapid decline. The doctors they didn't know. They kept checking. And then there was this one doctor I found that was amazing. And she's like, you need to get this completely checked because this is not normal. This is getting really bad. Ignored it. And in my 20s, I got pregnant. And that's when the total failure happened. And with the failure came the mental health decline, because they're like, well, you can't have your baby. You're going to have to give her. I'm like, nope, I'm not giving her up. I'm going to go through this. So I was in the hospital for 7 months, complete total kidney failure. So they said, well, we got to take her out. At 7 months, we're like, we got to get her out. We got to take care of you and the baby separate. Amazing doctors and nurses were like life-changing. She was in an incubator for a month. So I was just focused on her, not even caring about my body. My kidneys were at 7% function. They were declining more and more. I was going blind. I couldn't see properly half the time. Like it would go completely dark. I was like severely underweight, skinny, everything. And because I would wear makeup, I was in the beauty industry. I was in the external beauty, hairdresser, makeup. I was doing all that. So I was very good at covering up. I was the best at like hiding what I was going through. So nobody knew what I was going through. But in my teens, I had tried to end my life twice. I know it's triggered. I should have triggered one, but I did go through a lot of that, through the bullying, through all of that. And then my daughter, I was like, I have a reason to live. But then at the same time, I was like, that's a lot of pressure on a baby to do that. So I was like, I'm going to do my internal journey because I know I saw my mom do stuff. It helped me when she was doing stuff. So I'm going to do that. And the first concept I came about was the shadow. I was Deepak Chopra, Mariam Williamson, and Debbie Ford, the shadow effect. And Deepak Chopra talked about projection. And that was the biggest thing for me because I trigger a lot of people. It's a love-hate relationship when I meet someone. They will have no idea who I am, and they'll either look at me and be like, oh my God, I love your vibe. Or they're like, you guys don't see she's manipulative. She's a scam. And that's the bullying where it came from in high school. They just didn't like my vibe. They were like, something is really negative about her. We gotta like, hold her accountable for how I feel. And I was just owning it. And I took it and I had zero self value, zero self worth, zero self love, minus 100 even. And I was like, well, even if I don't love myself, it's fine. I'll love my daughter. But it doesn't kind of work like that. And we know it now, Anyway, so I went on that. And that was the biggest. I'm glad I found the dark shadow self projection stuff before, but I did go into the positive vibes only a little bit at the beginning and it didn't work. I tried it for like a few months and my kidneys were declined. Like I went through 7 surgeries after. I had a kidney transplant after my daughter was born. Forgot that part. That's why I'm trying to say this quick. So when a few months after she was born, I went through the transplant. And then a few months after that, I got another surgery. And I think 4 surgeries in, I was like, okay, this positive stuff is not working. Trying to be like, everything is good. And I was like, is there something heavy I'm feeling? And that's where the shadow work came in and the self projections. What I see in others is a reflection of me. What others see in me is a reflection of them. What's the difference between facts and self projection? I went on a deep dive. I was working with a psychologist. I mention her all the time. She was life changing because I was really broke, poor, and she exchanged her services for, I think I have one here, I'm not sure, orgonite. I would craft crystal orgonite. They reduce radiation. I don't know. It was like crystal decorational things that I was using. And she was like, just every session you bring one and that will be. So that was amazing for me because I was able to get help from her. And then she ended up mentoring me. I started taking coaching. So even though I was doing the external beauty, I was like, internal beauty matters. Like the inside matters. And I completely did a shift. And then I was like, it's important. External, it's good to feel good external. But my quote now is as within, so without. If you feel good on the inside, emotionally, physically, it'll radiate on your external world. And it's not about being happy all the time. It's finding peace through the pain.
Tanya,
So
that
that's
is
kind of,
like so your journey is powerful and thank you so much for sharing it. I think it's so important for women to hear, a story like that from you, and because I think that for so many women out there, we all have our own stories, we have our own challenges and our hardships that we go through. And I think that oftentimes because a lot of people carry shame with that and they hide it. They keep it kind of tucked to their chest. And so I just like want to acknowledge and just say thank you for sharing your story. And as you're speaking, I was feeling like a connection with you. Like I can see a lot of you and me and you, right? And then you start talking about projection and how you see people and you see yourself and others can see, right? Vice versa. And I think that's so cool. But you've been through a lot in your journey and you've also have overcome so much too. And I think it's interesting when you talked about sort of like that positivity mindset, right? Because we hear that so much, just be positive, stay in that positive energy and things will start to, work in your favor. But it's not always the case because there's always these other deeper layers. I always like to say, like there's layers to it. And so if you're just sort of masking the wound with positivity and those more of like those surface level kind of band-aids, you're not getting to the root of the problem. And so I'm really, really curious to kind of dive in to understand and share with our listeners today about going deeper, right? Because that's what you did. You went deeper into finding out like, what is this wound and what's the root of this? And through that is where you've kind of landed on the work that you're showing up with, like teaching others about projection. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about that with our listeners.
the first thing that's coming to mind is the way I see it is now, the way I see it is like a balance. I always do this with my arms. So I talk about this is if you're really, really dark, negative, and you're complaining all the time and your life is, I don't know if I can swear, but your life is crap. Everything is just like, oh my God. And you only see the darkness and everything that happens that positive. You don't see any positivity. You just kind of like, there'll be some great stuff, just like running water, a warm shower is absolutely amazing. But some people go so much, they don't even recognize those small things. And they're programmed. I used to be one of those. I used to be so dark that no matter how much good, the little good things that it happened, I was like, yeah, but look at all the bad in the world and in myself. And it was just like dark. And then oftentimes the people who've lived really dark things
Mhm.
don't want to feel that anymore. So it's like a seesaw. They're like, I have been at the bottom holding up all of this stuff from like a seesaw, like all of that baggage, but it's not worth it. And then they go and they know how it feels like to feel good. They get a glimpse of something. So oftentimes they're like, well, I don't ever want to go back down. I don't ever want to go and feel that way again. So I'm going to be positive. I'm going to raise my vibration and I'm going to do all of that. And they really go into it. And something that I've learned is I'm really, really into science, like super science nerd. And I wanted to know when I went the whole high vibes and everything, I was like, I want to know the science, like, because I want to raise my vibration and that science. And when I found out the science, I realized there is no good or bad vibration. People are like, stay away from low vibes. I'm like, where does vibes come from? Where do we measure it? Where do we this? So I found out in the brain waves, we measure vibrational frequencies through brain waves. And I'm like, okay, what's the brain waves? And then I went deep in to like, that was the spiritual awakening. I guess I find right after I found self-projection, I did a huge spiritual, like, what's the energy that's making my body alive? What is that about? Does that raise the vibration? Like, how does that work? And when I found out the science that like music, there is no good or bad vibration. It's how you play it together. Like if you're playing music and you go really high and really low, it's like triggering for people, certain sound. But if you flow with a beautiful symphony, it just makes you feel good. And then I found out the earth vibrates very low. It's very, very low. But I'm like, I love the earth. Oh, going in nature. So I was like, so then I started saying, wait a minute, what about emotions? And I started, and that's like the seesaw. I was like, wait a minute, it's about finding that balance. So I don't think it's about being happy all the time. It's about how to feel sad, how to feel angry. So when I'm in the anger, I'm not in the dark night, like, this is the worst of my like depression. It's like, oh, you can find inner peace in the happiness. You can find inner peace through the hard times and the pain, the emotional pain and the physical pain. And when I was in pain, like I used to be really, really sick when my daughter was born after the transplant. I have a lot of still guilt that I deal with on a daily basis that I wasn't present. I was in hospitals and I would shame myself through that pain. And then when I was positive, I was super positive. So I was like, no, no. Now when I'm sick, I'm like, okay, I'm sick. I'm going to go through this. Even emotionally, if I go through a breakup, if I go through a loss of something or a deep pain, I'm like, I'm going to cry and I'm going to give myself love right now and compassion and empathy. And that to
Mm.
me is the balance. It's not like people talk about healing your body, which I guess we can go into too, because I did find a way to heal my body and the disease that I was born with. And it's incredible because it wasn't about raising my vibration. It was about how to play with the vibrational frequencies of how to be low, how to be like, if there's night and day, there's the duality, and it's about how to be okay in
So
the darkness.
That's really interesting. Can I just add to that? I feel like Whitley and I go through these moments sometimes where we feel low and we don't know why. And it almost feels like an uncomfortable period where we need to sit with the uncomfortable. And when we do sit with that, it's like, why is this happening? We know it's going to be okay. It's just in that moment, it's like we need to feel it. We need to feel what we're feeling, address those issues. And I think what you're saying is that you can't always be on a high frequency, high vibration, or happy all the time. And when you're sad, you need to address those feelings and say, you know what, I am feeling sad. And as women, we have been expected to have everything together all the time. And showing vulnerability for some women is very difficult, right? And so they sometimes feel alone in their feelings. And I think what you're doing is amazing because you're showing that It's okay to feel those feelings, and it's okay to be vulnerable too, and it's okay to be, not positive all the time, and to see the beauty in healing and the vulnerability in that. And it's not all about like fixing yourself. You don't need to fix yourself. So can you relate to that, like in a sense that is like that uncomfortable moment, like those moments of uncomfortability? Like what should one do
Yeah.
if they feel uncomfortable in those feelings, and
And
they're trying to fight it?
So I think that the sad feelings are just trying to be heard. And the way that I see it is the way that I found self love and self value, which I think is two separate things. I think we mix them together, but it's two separate things. And the self love is just, how do you speak to yourself on the hard moments? Do you tell yourself, get over it? It's fine. You know what? I know it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. If you're saying, now I just say, imagine, picture that, saying that to your young child. Like you have a kid and you're like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be, and you're like, you don't
Yeah.
want to hear, it's going to be fine. You don't want to hear that. We all know tomorrow's another day. But in the moment that we're feeling something, we think it's a good thing, but it's invalidating. It's completely saying, you know what, you're not allowed to feel right now. I'm uncomfortable with this. So just, you're feeling it. And then sometimes people are like, oh, poor you. Oh my God. It's like the too much, the too negative. And then you get dragged in and people get scared to go there. That's why they do that. No, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Let's just go through it. Let's just go through it. But to me, I'm like, when you're going through it, how do you speak to yourself? Become your best friend. Because this is just an opinion. I believe that the positive high vibes is a very masculine kind of patriarchy view for the natural flow of feminine energy to like suppress it, because feminine energy is through phases. When we have babies, when we have our cycles, whatever it is, we have pain, we have this, it's a natural part. We all go through this at a different level. But being positive and everything is suppressing and suppressing. And what happens when you suppress, as we've seen in the whole world, you get wars. When you hide all of these things, you get a lot of vicious anger coming out because you push it down for so long. It has to come out somewhere. And the feminine energy is when, let's say you have a baby and your baby's crying like a newborn, you're like, oh, I know. You don't really know. You're like, I know. And you just hug the baby. You let it cry it out, but you tend to its needs. You feed it. So I'm like, when I started seeing my daughter, and to me, all of these realizations is watching my daughter grow and how she responded to things with me. So if I were to tell her, like, stop being a negative baby, raise your vibration, she would have been like, I'm like, there's no such thing as negative babies. They're just babies with emotions, and we deal with it and we go through it. But there's a certain age where we're like, nope, we can't feel it. And I believe around the age of 6, 7 is when self projections start happening, because we are absorbing everything. We're kind of recording when we're little, and we record forever. We're always continuously recording. But I see projection like a projector on a screen. So you're recording as you go throughout your whole life, but you don't project when you're little. You're just experiencing everything. Even the science says kids don't have beta brainwaves, which is analytical. That's why they're like Spider-Man. Like they're just like imagination all the time. So they're in the theta brainwaves. Theta is when we just wake up, when we're meditating, when we're being hypnotized. That's the theta. So I was like, wait, and that's a low vibration actually feeling. So I went, interesting. So when I found that out, I was like, okay, what age do we start? And then the science says around 6, 7 years old, we get the beta brainwaves. And I believe that's where all of the stuff that happens through our life is we internalize it and we start seeing it in others. And we recognize bits and pieces of ourselves. And sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's positive. So to answer your question, I just had a long thing, is what I do is there's something called top-down, bottom-up experiential therapy. And what it is when you're too much in your mind because you're trying to figure out the whys and hows and why am I like this? Why not? Who cares about the why and the how in that moment? Figure it out later. Go down. Like bottoms up is connect with your body. Use your senses. That's what kids do. They're like, plane. Oh, I hear a plane. I see a bird. So you just use, like, if you're eating a strawberry, you taste the strawberry and you're like, What are the tastes? So you're becoming present in the present moment completely with your emotions. And the same thing, so if you're too much, let's say you're uncomfortable and you're like, oh, why do I have a headache today? Why do I physical? Then you do top down. So you go to the from the top of the mind, then you do the whys. So to find the balance to me is that's how to be uncomfortable.
Do you
Just
find
be
that
with
like
it.
when you're being with the
Mindfulness.
with whatever it is that you're like experiencing and those different emotions too, Tanya, is like when you just sit and you allow yourself to be with it without judgment and give yourself that grace, do you find that you can move through that and you release yourself from actually harboring any stuck emotions and energies? And also, I'm really curious to know what your take is on trapped emotions and how that manifests into the physical body as well.
It's funny you say that because I was working out this week and I was like such in a good mood. I'm working out and all of a sudden he's like, okay, now you got to do the bicycle. And I lie down on the mat and it's a personal trainer, but a semi-personal. There was a few other people around. I lie down on the mat and I open the legs, which is like that somatic release thing, tears. And I'm like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. I was just my body was like, you're gonna feel something right now, and I'm like, no, not now. And I'm like, oh my god, and I know that in a few minutes he's gonna do his rounds and come see me, and I'm like, and I started to shame myself, which I do think is okay actually. In a certain time, I was like, suck it up, you're at the gym, and I was saying that to myself. I was like, go, come on, pull through this, and I do think that's important sometimes. That's why being a little on the positive, don't 100%. I'm always kind of like in the middle of stuff because it's okay sometimes, suck it up. And I'm like, let's feel this later. As soon as we get home, we're in the car, we'll cry together. Okay. But right now we're not doing this. So I sucked it up, but it was a little bit hard, but you know, it was good. That anger. Cause if you suppress sadness, which is hurt is the basis of all the feelings, what babies are always crying, sadness, it turns to anger. That's what happens in the brain. As soon as you learn to suppress crying and sadness, that's why some people can't feel sadness. They go direct to anger because it's been suppressed so long. So I went into anger, which is amazing to work out because you're like, oh, and you work out more. So sometimes that's okay. Transform it. That's the way I see it, is like we're supersized batteries and we just got to transform the negative and the positive and just flow through it and not stay stagnant. And that's, to answer your question, that's how I feel that the battery is, without being stagnant, is to feel them and not just like, if I were to go in the car and say, oh, no, it's fine now. No. I'm like, where did that come from? What was that about, Tanya? And I know it sounds nuts sometimes, but I do talk to myself a lot. I was like, what is this? Where did this? And all of a sudden, it was something that happened 5 months ago. And the way it is our senses is we're constantly, which relates to projection, is here. I'll actually use this. It's the way I explain it. I have a crystal here. I was like, the way our brain is that this tiny little crystal here is our conscious mind. That's 5%. 95% of our brain is the subconscious. So we only, like, we're all talking right now with our conscious mind. Our subconscious is processing every smell, every texture, every feeling, constantly. And we store everything. And that's where the self projections come in, are all in the subconscious. We're not aware of them. But the conscious mind is like, no, this. So I was like, I need to go in the subconscious. So sometimes I meditate, sometimes I just talk to myself. And I realize, oh, that's where it comes from. And instead of saying, why is it happening? Why is it surfacing? I don't do that anymore. I ask why for the big questions of life, but not about my emotions because they're irrational. So I just sit and I'm like, it's okay to be sad. It's okay. You can be sad. And sometimes the sadness lasts a few hours. Sometimes it's anger, sadness. And I'm like, and I'm crying and I'm like, and I feel it. And I know sometimes people get uncomfortable and I'm like, I'm alone. I make sure, or if somebody's comfortable with me that can give me a hug. Sometimes I'm only sad for 5 minutes. But if I say to myself, it's okay to be sad right now, just feel it, be sad. I'm here with you, with myself. It's the love that I've always needed from others I'm giving myself right now.
Yeah. You don't have to fix it, right? And I think the other day I called Whitley. I was on my way I'm a photographer as well. I was on my way to my wedding, and it was my first wedding of the year. And this is my last year doing wedding photography. So it's a big deal for me because I've taken like a leap of faith on my future. And I just felt like I was no longer connected to that anymore. And I went into the day feeling anxiety but not for those reasons. It was mostly feeling disconnected with what I was feeling that day. And I didn't know why. I had no idea why. And I called her while I was in the car and I said, I don't know why I'm feeling like this. Like, this is all happening. Like, it just feels disconnected in some way. And I don't have an answer. And she automatically, being the best friend she is, tried to give me solutions, right? And then I said to her, I said, you know, Whitley, I actually don't want a solution. I just need you to hear. And that to me, and she was like, okay, I get it. Like, you just want to hear, you just want to say how you feel. And that to me was more, it was more healing than
It's
trying
like,
to fix it.
Yeah.
You know?
But
And that,
imagine
yeah, it was
doing that to
fine.
yourself. Like,
What's
that's what
that?
I tell my clients. That's what I tell people on the video. I'm like, before calling a friend, I say, think calling a friend is the best thing that you can have. It's so amazing that you can have people that are there. I go, but for the first 20 minutes, if you want to know how to be uncomfortable, is don't call anybody and you sit with yourself and you're going to feel like it's weird. It happens like in the chest. You're going to want to turn the radio on or drown out, and then every song is going to annoy you. You're going to get your thing hooked on to the door. Everything is going to be like, because you don't want to, and you don't know why, and you're going to want to call people to validate. And I said, it's amazing to do that. We need connection. But I said, for the first 10 to 20 minutes, if we can sit with ourselves and be like, I need to hear me. So then when you'll be ready to hear Whitley's solutions and her things, because you're ready, because you already validated yourself. You just did it. So it's, and then you're like, oh, you know, I'm ready for a solution. Maybe she can give me different options and then stuff like that. And it's for me, I felt less abandoned when I started doing that, like the abandonment that you're constantly, I felt, and that's the self-value I was talking about. The self-love is how you talk to yourself as well, but the self-value is your place. Like, where do you put your value? Which is, you're saying photography, doing something. Oftentimes we put our value as being the best parents. I put a lot of my value on helping others. And if I feel like I can't help others and I don't have value, I still struggle with that. And I have to remind myself I'm valuable because I exist. Yeah. Like, I say it to myself. But every time I get super triggered, or friendships that are like, somebody's upset with me or somebody does that, then I put my value very much on friendships, and I'll be like, I'm not a good friend. Oh my God, I couldn't be there. And I'm like, no. I'm still, let's just separate, because I internalize. But I know that if I internalize that, that's what I'm going to project.
Right.
That's the energy that I'm going to be projecting, and I'm going to
It's
judge other people
so
on their
true.
value.
You know what? It made me think about yesterday. I had to cancel an appointment yesterday, and I think my value, like I placed a lot of my value of not letting others down, right? And so when I was calling in to cancel an appointment, I could hear on the other line, like just in their response, that they were, you know, a little upset that I was canceling so last minute, which, to be fair, 100%. But after I got off the phone, I felt bad about it. And I immediately went into my mind, and I was going over and over, repeating all, like, it was like I was like replaying the scenario over and over. And I actually had to like remind myself and just stop and say, okay, Whitley, it's okay. Like, I had to talk to myself as though I was like talking to like the little girl in me who was afraid of letting other people down, always people pleasing, try not to rock the boat, right? And I had to like actually take a moment and just like talk to her and say, it's okay. Like, you're human. You had to cancel the appointment. It's not the end of the world. Nobody's dying today. There's no like, right. And it's like, I had to remind myself that it was okay. But I think that it was really important to not just like just brush it off, like you were saying, sweep it under the rug, but actually address it and allow myself to like feel what I was feeling, but also reminding myself that it was okay to do that. And yeah, I could let that go now. And I think after that, it was like it phased out, right? And I find that there's a lot of like, I can relate to a lot of what you're saying, Tanya, in terms of like sitting with those emotions. I think that over the last year and a half, I've really been learning to honor my own emotions and to allow myself to feel the things that I'm feeling. I feel like, Sherry, you too, right? Like, both of us have been learning, you know, how to really break free from the old stories and the old programming when it comes to the way that we honor our emotions and flow through the emotions versus just kind of like shoving them under the rug and masking it with, being positive, because that doesn't work. Like that is not sustainable, because at the end of the day, we're human. We're like spiritual beings here having a human experience. And through that human experience, we get to experience all these different emotions, right? And I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said, it's the finding that peace. If you can find your inner peace, regardless of whatever emotion that you're going through and whatever state you're in, if you can just find that inner peace within yourself, it's so freeing, so freeing.
It's interesting you say that, because I was on the receiving end yesterday of somebody that canceled on me last minute. I was the one, and I could tell she was
Really,
uncomfortable to cancel with me. I know, was it? And but I was upset. It was a very big thing that I was canceled on for. So I was upset, and I said, I'm not going to deal with it now. And it's like we both had to process our emotions separately, but I could see that it made her uncomfortable. It made me uncomfortable. And I was aware that I'm going to have to address this later, to talk about the last minutes and everything. And I said, hey, can we discuss this to move forward in a different, and I'm like, it's so, that discomfort is actually what I teach, because I am a recovered people pleaser. I was chronic people pleasing, and I never wanted to do anything. So I would hold off on saying anything until things would blow up. My relationships were disconnecting and everything. So what I learned is to be uncomfortable with other people's reactions. That is, and that to me was like, I'll sit there, and if I could see somebody now like not happy with what I'm saying, or how me, it's in my stomach, I feel it, and I'll immediately clock in. And that's how I feel uncomfortable, is the first thing I go, Tanya, what are you feeling physically? Because if somebody starts going, what? Or like you said, that receiving end, you could feel the discomfort. I'm like, and I have a tendency, and justify and try to be like, no, and you don't want to hurt people's feelings. So I'll sit with it. Instead of trying to justify, I sit in the silence now. I still have a hard time, and I'll go, it's okay. It's okay. Now I feel it in my stomach. It's this pain. Interesting. Maybe I'll deal with that later. Like I'll talk to my stomach. I hold my stomach. So sometimes I feel it in my chest. That's how I learn to sit with that discomfort, the emotional part, because the physical is another story, but the emotional part is like, okay, this is affecting me. I got to sit with somebody else being maybe upset with me or uncomfortable. That is the biggest thing. And what you said before is burying things under the rug. That's what I used to do. Bury everything. Like I said, I put on a brave face all the time. I never disrupted the comfort of my friends. I had no boundaries. I'm not going to set boundaries and say what I need and want, because everybody else matters more than me anyways. So that I was like a subconscious feeling. And what I've seen is like that shadow that's going to come out. And then what I project is I started seeing everybody as everybody's abandoning me all the time. Nobody cares about me and abandons. I didn't realize I was abandoning myself. I was abandoning all the negative emotions in myself. So I was like, how come? And then another part is people would invalidate and stonewall. I often met dismissive avoidance in friendships and in relationships. It's somebody who just wants to be. And I was dismissing and invalidating myself, so I would accept it in others. So I would have people come in and I was doing it to me. So oftentimes people think self-projection is you are, let's say, a narcissist, and now you're like, oh, that's a narcissist and you're the narcissist. It doesn't work like that. If I see wallpaper, it doesn't mean I'm wallpaper. If you see somebody lying and you're like, hey, they're lying, it doesn't make you a liar. You're pointing out a fact. How do you feel about the lying? And if everybody is a liar, then start asking yourself, maybe do you lie sometimes? Is that bad? Are you doing it manipulatively? Are you doing it? So self-projection is so deep, and it's all the stuff we're talking about, all that negative buried stuff that you don't deal with, and the positive stuff. Some people bury their positive. They're so insecure about themselves, and they go, everybody's so beautiful. Everybody's so nice. And then you talk about them and they're like, oh, no, ew, gross. They don't see the positive, even though they see it in others. So like I said before, it's all in here. Just because they're not aware of it doesn't mean it's like the iceberg in the ocean, you know, just because they're not aware, it's there. Whether it's positive or negative projections, it's floating around there and it will come out when you least expect it. It's the worst part about projections.
It's so true. And I think the major thing is the awareness, right? Of those triggers, those shadows. And I know that this is your work, this is what you do. And so, what is it? Oh my God, I just blanked. I'm cutting that out. What?
It's funny because you were saying before
What was
you
I
were
saying?
saying it's like you were yesterday, was it that you disassociated?
This weekend, yeah.
Yeah. So what you don't have to cut it out, because what you could talk about is when you're in a place right now that is what you're projecting right now, is you're going to kind of tune out, and your brain is actually right now in a place of kind of survival. Whatever you're doing, you're like,
Yeah.
this is important, but your brain's like, no, that's not as important right now. So I'm going to put you. So disassociation, I don't think is a bad thing. Like when you lose your train of thought or anything, it's because you could be focused on something else. So it's like it's almost, and this happens often when I meet clients, they disassociate because what I'm doing is I'm like, hey, this is the conscious mind and I'm trying to access this.
Mm-hmm.
And now to access this, the way I see it is like, see the ocean and the iceberg. You have the top of the little iceberg is peeking out. That's us talking right now.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have just the beginning of the ocean, which if you're in a boat, you could kind of see a little bit in the water. You know how you see a little bit? You could see fishes that kind of like, let's say a beautiful blue ocean, but the abyss is 95% of the ocean. You don't see, you have no idea. It's a scary place down there. Who knows what's alien? I don't know. Whatever's down there is so like scary and we don't know what it is. So when I talk to people, they're dipping in the surface, which is the unconscious. Unconscious is, let's say you don't know you're breathing right now. You're not aware, you're breathing every minute. When you walk, you're unconsciously walking. You don't realize you're walking. But if you bring the unconscious to the conscious, then you start becoming aware. Okay, in, out. Now you could become aware. So if you're doing things the unconscious to the conscious, kind of disassociate. People get like, wait, hold on. And then now I'm telling you, hey, let's go to the subconscious. And you're like, and so your brain will go, no, protecting. So you'll start to like, wait, what was I saying? Where am I going? And the brain does that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a totally normal thing. But I think it's important because what your mind is doing now is going to the unconscious, is going. So I would say give yourself grace while you randomly disassociate for the next few weeks or something. Your brain's actually trying to go deeper.
Okay.
That's the way I see it. It's trying to go deeper in yourself and to find out, because you're asking why. Your brain's like, okay, I'll tell you, but now you have to put the scuba gear on. You got to dive. It's going to be scary. So you may feel, your brain may be going, wait, right now we're, on a podcast, I don't feel like feeling deep stuff. So your brain's like, no, and it shuts off. It kind of goes, let's talk about that later. And it's so cool.
These topics can be so complex because to your point, we're dealing with the subconscious, right? And I think for Sherry and I, because we are so self-aware in where we're at in our journey right now and all of the things that we've been experiencing, and we're allowing ourselves the grace to like sit with it and to allow ourselves to go through the experience of where we're at in this phase of our journey. But it's really, really cool to hear words and definitions and things to everything we're experiencing, right? Like you're bringing more substance in terms of like the context behind these things, right? And so I think for me, anyways, as you're sitting here talking, I think for Sherry too, as you're sitting here talking, we're like processing probably at like fast speeds right now, like the conscious is, the subconscious is, but it's because it's making so much sense too. It's like it's bringing like clarity into like what we're experiencing on that like deeper abyssal level.
I feel like I remind people of what they already know.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like. If somebody says, oh my gosh, what you're saying makes so much sense, I was like, that's because I'm reminding you of what you already know. If it resonates with you, it means that you already know this somewhere. Your subconscious already knows this stuff. But what I've just done is brought it to the conscious, and you're like, oh yeah. It's like when you have that, oh yeah, memory of, because every time I feel that, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It's so simple. But all I did was just bring it up and say, hey, this could be what's going on. And you're like, oh, yeah. And that's why I said, I don't think I teach as much as I just remind people. And I really highly suggest, no matter what we talk about today, the best thing of my life ever that I have done for myself through physical healing and mental healing and spiritual healing is meditate, which is so hard. I do it every day and my body's like, no, just like going to the gym. I've been working out every day for a year. No, lies. Totally lying. Every week for a year. I work out 3 times a week, not every day. Come on. No, so it's 3 times a week. Yeah. Yeah. What is it? And then I'm like, no, no. About 2 to 3 times a week. Every week, I meant to say, for a year. And I still really dislike it. I go wake up, I'm like, I gotta work out. But I know how amazing I feel after. So I do the same for my meditation. It's brutal to sit there and I get like in the back of my neck, I get annoyed. And then I think, oh, the laundry, I need to do the laundry, my taxes, and all these things that have been popping up, and they pop up when you're meditating. And I do just like a workout, I do minimum 30 minutes. And I have to tell you, that's where all the stuff I'm giving you and I'm telling you, you guys, like, you do a few of those, even when you're not really doing it properly, you think it is. It's just you're thinking about the whole time. The next day, you're like, oh my God, I understand this. Oh my God, I get this. It's like we all have the answers within us. And meditation kind of says, yeah, it's like a USB of information that you're getting from your own brain. It's wild. It's wild. Anyways, it's just something I'm throwing out there.
We do meditations. I don't do every day, but I try to. And when I feel like I used to not be able to meditate. And for a lot of people, maybe some people have ADHD and that's their mind wanders a lot. I find that the more I'm doing it though, the easier it's becoming. And so because I'm seeing how it works, right? And so you can commit more to things where you see the progress, where you see the proof, right? And when I'm meditating, I feel like I used to look for like the woo woo, like maybe
Yeah.
And
yeah.
now,
What am I going to see and appear?
I'm gonna see my father who died. Like what? But now what I see is my inner voice and the guidance that I need today. And whether it be that or like, talking to myself too. I do that as well. I talk to myself a lot. And I find that I flow easier through the soul speaking when I am more connected to me rather than focus on the outside noise. Like, let's put this podcast right now. I have to zone into myself to be able to speak. That's why I lost my train of thought, because I wasn't zoned in. I don't know where it was, right? So I'm in flow right now. I'm speaking to you and I'm not thinking, I'm feeling. I feel like that's the difference. And like when I'm in meditation, it's like I don't need to think. I just need to feel. And throughout my day, I get more awareness of things that I need to do and decisions I need to make because of those quiet moments that I've listened, right? And I think that has been such an integral part of my life for sure. Like I think everybody should do it, but obviously like some people, they don't feel it's for them and that's okay. But meditation can be anything, right? Like it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sit for 30 minutes, but it could be walking in in the woods and just reflecting. Like yoga is a great one. I do yoga. I love it.
I do
I cry a
think,
lot
though,
during yoga.
the one thing I'll say is I do think meditation is for everyone. And there are some people who will say, working out is not for me. Listen, you don't walk or dance or move around. So moving is important for the body. Sitting with it is important for the mind. So we think that physical is like physical and mental. We go to therapy, we do things, or we talk to people and process, like everybody does that. But when people say I can't meditate, I know that they have to meditate more than anybody else. But they refuse to. It's the same as if, like, I was in debilitating pain. I could not move my body. And the doctors were like, you just got surgery. You need to walk. I'm like, I don't want to walk. I'm in pain. But walking is going to help you. It's going to help you heal. It's going to help you go through it. So I remember they lifted me up and my little bag there plugged in and all the stuff in my arms and the IVs, and I'm just walking and I was in pain. It's hard when I was bed rest with my daughter for 6 out of the 7 months. So I couldn't walk after, and they had to show me. And I think the way I see it is, like you said, some people will tell you, I can't meditate, it's not for me. And as soon as they say that, I said, no, you don't want to, or you think it's too hard, just like I used to feel with working out, and I still feel. So that's why when people are like, I can't meditate, I'm like, I get you. I get it. It doesn't mean you can't, though. Some people will say, I can't because I've had people with ADHD clients who have drastically changed their life, and it actually helped them with the mental focus. And but it's like you said, you don't have to be the rock boot camp person to work out. You could just move your body. Like, you don't have to meditate for hours of day and be in the, like you said, the woo woo you don't have to do that. You could do 10 minutes. It's really a variation, but it is the most amazing thing. And if somebody says they can't just sit with themselves, just sit. I can't sit with myself. It's interesting. And they want other people to sit with them, which is the projection. I wish people would just sit with me. We don't even have to talk. We could just be in the same room. I'm like, can you do that with yourself?
Right.
And you're asking why people can't do it with you. That's why I think everything is a projection. And as you mentioned before, it's not about fixing yourself. It's just about being aware of what you're projecting. So I project constantly. I'm projecting as we're talking. I'm tapping into a past version of myself that I used to judge, and I'm not now. And it's constant, but I'm aware of it. So if somebody now tries to bully me or calls me out, if it affects me, I'm like, oh, it's because I believe it. Yeah. I believe part of it. Okay, I get that. Maybe I'll work on that. This is a little self-love I got to give myself. And I know that it's about them. What if somebody comes out? I've had a lot of people come after me and go on the attack. Being a content creator, rising, getting more and more followers, you get a lot of people that will hate you for no reason because you look at them the wrong way, or you said the wrong thing, or they took a video with their interpretation. And I have to sit with that and say, I don't wish people karma. I wish people healing, because if they can heal that and self-reflect and know about projection, then they won't hurt somebody else. They won't hurt me. They're going to go about their life doing better and feeling better.
How do you navigate the difference? Okay, I'm going to really try my best to put words to my question here. But say, for example, if you have one person you have person A and person B. Say, for example, like somebody is triggering you, right? So say somebody triggers you and a bunch of stuff comes up for you and something feels off, something doesn't feel right. How do you know between the difference of like if you're projecting or if they're projecting, and how do you navigate whether it is truth, whether it is real, or whether it is wounds from their side or your side? Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. So the way I would see your question is, what is fact versus projection versus intuition?
Yes.
That's the way I see it, because I get that question all the time. They're like, my intuitive feeling is I need to stay away. I see it. Sometimes I look at someone and you're like, nope. Like your body immediately goes, oh no, something's off. So I say, follow that. I am an advocate for following your intuition. If something feels negative or off or something, the biggest problem we have, especially as women, is we don't follow that. And we're like, oh, and we try to say why, because we always want to know why. Why do I feel like why? Now the why is the projection. If you get a vibe, whether somebody said something and maybe it was your discernment, you know that's off. Whatever they said, it's not super bad, but you're like, whether it's what they said, what they did, how they did it, what they look like, follow it. If somebody is not for you, they are not for you. When you start saying why, that is a projection. So you go, why? Oh, maybe because they're a bad person. Maybe because they're a creeper. Maybe because they're not a good this. They're not. And that is the projection. Maybe you feel like a bad person. Maybe in your past, you feel like maybe they're manipulators. I could see them. They're such a I could feel their negative aura. I'm like, how? I've had that people. I'm like, no, you don't. You feel that you need to stay away. That means that person is not for you.
Mm-hmm.
Intuition is go towards or stay away. Sometimes we get a feeling like you said, I saw your video. I got an intuitive feeling to reach out and we talked about it. I said, me too. I was seeing right away. I was like, oh, so our intuition went like this.
Mm-hmm.
If our intuition goes this way, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're a negative person or bad person. Doesn't mean I am. It's just maybe we're not meant to be in, like, not every single 8 billion plus people are meant to be in each other's lives. So sometimes it doesn't mean that they're negative or bad. I would say just stay away. That's it. That's all it is for intuition. Go towards, stay away. All the judgments and the criticisms have to do with our subconscious. That deep internal state of maybe they have a perfume or a cologne of somebody that hurt you or even was rude to you a couple of days ago, or maybe in your childhood and you don't know. Your just subconscious is like, no, stay away. Maybe they said something that maybe like in your past somebody was really manipulative and mean, and that person just said the exact same thing. You don't remember the past every single moment, but your brain does. Your subconscious is like, nope. So now you're going to go, oh, they're manipulative. And you point the finger, not realizing that saying, they say, not realizing where the other 3 fingers are pointing. It's coming from you. It doesn't mean you're manipulative. It could mean that there's something in your past that recognize that. So there's 4 types of projection. The first one is emotional. What I feel about you is how I feel about me. If I project beautiful as like, let's say I feel that I'm beautiful and I call everybody beautiful, but I don't think I'm beautiful. That's in my subconscious. So I project that. So all of the emotional, how do I feel about it? If I see wallpaper, okay, it's a fact. It's wallpaper. How do I feel about that? Is how I feel about me. So for example, funny today is green. I happen to be wearing green. It's just like, I love this wallpaper. I love myself. Oh, so cute. So it just becomes aware. You become aware. So when you see someone, you say, how do I feel about this person is a reflection of how I feel about me, not of how I feel about others. It's how I feel about me. That's the
This is like
first one.
I do. It feels like very much
Do
like
you know what I mean?
aligning
Yeah.
with frequencies too. Like I would be so I know we don't have time to jump into this, but like I would be so curious to like even yeah, I know. I'm like
Can we have you on again?
like
Yeah.
a part 2.
Yeah,
But like
sure.
as you're talking about that, it's like almost like, the way that you're showing up. Say for example, you wake up, you're in a great mood, all the things. Normally, you attract other people, other situations that reflect that back to you, right? So that to me is like I'm like, okay, this goes a little even deeper. Like I like you could dive into more of like how you manifest your reality. Oh, you are.
I'm
Oh,
actually going to dive into that. Yeah, in the second part, because people think that they attract what their conscious mind, they're conscious. And then when they see a negative
Mhm.
person, they're like, why did I attract that? It's not
Mm-hmm.
that you attract it, it's just a part of you. You don't, it's how, why. So that's what I mean is if you walk into a room and you're super positive, you're in a great mood, you're like, good, everything, I'm in a vibe. Like if, like, first, before I say that is if you walk out and you're in a great mood and you look at the rain, you're like, it's raining, I love it. If you're in a bad mood, God, it's raining again. So it's just of the emotional aspect. But if you walk into a room and you see a negative person and you're like, oh, they're negative, that's a projection. You're literally judging the negative. That's you being negative, saying, oh, they're negative. And it doesn't mean that negative is bad, though. It doesn't mean that negative is bad. It's why are you judging it in them? That means
Mm.
you judge it in yourself. That's the key. It's okay that there's a negative person, but you don't know. What if they lost someone? Because I often get people say, yeah, but sometimes you see, I've done that. People come in and I'm negative because I went through a breakup. But what do? I'm at a party. I don't broke up. I'm not going to talk like that. So I'm like fake. I'm like, hey, everyone, how's it going? Deep inside, there are some people that are really good at discernment. They can see right through what people are feeling. I know people like that. I'm not like that. My daughter is like that. They can immediately catch on if their true feelings. I love that about people. They're like, it's okay to catch on if someone's negative, but if you judge it and go, Tanya's so fake. Yes, I am. I was fake, but I'm not, it's not because I'm a bad person or anything, is I don't want to talk about my breakup in front of everybody and what I'm going through, or I lost somebody, or there was a death that happened, my dog died, and I'm just internalizing it, and I'm trying to tap into a positive side of myself. So I may, yes, be feeling negative. They may be catching that. They may be catching the negative I'm feeling. They may be catching the fakeness, but it doesn't mean it's bad. So that's where the projection is. Why are you judging it in other people? Then you're judging it in yourself, because it's okay to feel negative. Now, the difference is where you come in is some people are toxic. And that's the reason it's so important to know about self-projection, because if you just recognize that some people are negative, if somebody comes up to you and is toxic, like they're mean, they're saying things to you, and they're like blatantly criticizing you and everything, you're like, oh, I'm not projecting. That's a projection of them now, right? They're projecting on you. And that's when I just say, set boundaries. You need to be like, and you can only set boundaries with others if you set them with yourself, which is relating back to the conversation. How do you talk to yourself when you're negative? Do you go too deep? Then if you go too deep into your negative, maybe you allow people to go too deep negative with you. It's self-projection this could take like 5 hours.
Yeah,
It's such a deep thing. But that's why people often mix the first type, the emotional, how do you feel about others, with the other three type. And the other three is very simply explained. One is knowledge, thinking everybody should know what you know. So you're like, I can't deal with stupid people. It's not that they're stupid people. You're projecting. You think everybody should have the same knowledge as you. Everybody has different levels of knowledge. So you go, oh, they don't know what I know. Okay. And just to be aware of that. So when you become aware, you can let it go. That's the cool part with self-projection. Once you become aware, you're like, oh, I get it. The other one is presumption self-projection, is presuming everyone should feel how you feel. So let's say you walk into a room and you see a negative person, and with your friends, you're like, you see they're negative? And they're like, no. And you're like, yes. And then you get triggered because you're like, everybody should feel how I feel politically. Everybody should have the same. Religious, you'll see people that are very, very religious. They think everybody should have the same religious views. Now, again, there's a difference between just having a different view and having a toxic view. And that's why it's so important to know the difference. A view that could be very dangerous and toxic versus a view that is just different. So when it's the same as an emotion, which leads to my last point, is absolved self-projection. And that is often done by narcissists and, malignant narcissists or abusers. They will say, you're that way, and they're that way. They'll say you are a scammer, a manipulator, a cheater, whatever. And they're the ones doing it. So they project. So people think that projection is only the absolved type, but there's so many nuances and aspects to that.
Absolutely love this conversation, Tanya. And we just want to share with our listeners today what you have to offer, what they can look out for, just kind of like putting them in the right direction. Like
the easiest way to find me is just tanyabeautycoach.com. All the information about everything I'm doing is on there. The first place I could start is my books. That's how I first got started into like my journey. First, it was going on the TikTok and doing things a little more publicly than just in my location. Then I started, people asked me, hey, can you write books about projection? And we want to know more. We want to go, because it's like I said, we were talking here, it's hard. So I said, okay. So I started with How to Own Your Shit, Mastering Self-Projection, where I go into details, a very easy, simple book kind of to read. I am going to be releasing another one very soon that's more in depth. So after you read the first, it kind of goes deeper. Then I have 2 journals. One is for men to build lasting relationships. It also talks about projection, on owning it. Same thing with 21 days. So they're both 21-day journals. I have a children's book about self-projection, because bullying starts pretty young now. It's like in elementary schools and stuff like that. So if a kid could be aware of what others are projecting on them and what they're projecting, again, it's not about being perfect. It's just about being aware. So my sister is the illustrator for that. And we worked on Lulu's Magic Mirror. That was one of my fun projects. And that led to, I don't know how it led into this, but I just decided with clients and with my books that I want to get together with more women and make women feel empowered and create a safe space. So I created that on my website. So I have a free group where women and feminine energy individuals can come and feel safe and have peer support groups for loss, for dealing with all sorts of emotions and grief and dealing with narcissists and addictions and all sorts of stuff. And free meditations, free, there's like so much, I can't even, it'll take me forever to list. And then after creating that, I was like, how about I create a group of wellness experts that are all around the world that I trust, because it's so hard to find someone that you can trust and you could relate to that have a balanced views. Because sometimes some people can be like, they want more for money. They don't do the helping that you need. So what we do is I said, okay, I'm going to get together and I'm going to support those people. Because I did a website in 2014, I started very young. I've been able to do that. And a lot of people are going online right now. So now what I do is I support I have a little team and I support wellness professionals, mental, physical, and spiritual wellness, and on their business and their mental health journey. Because I think everyone needs support. We all need that. And we don't have to do this alone, especially since women only were able to get bank accounts and stuff like that in the 70s. We need more support. So that's what I do. That was very long, but
I love it. You've accomplished so much. Like I mean, you should give yourself a pat on the back. And I know you're humble and you don't want to, but like give yourself a pat on the back. Whitley and I are so grateful to have this conversation. Like we said, we were just in, like, I know a lot of women listening are going to get so much from it because you're looking at the deeper layers of, projection and like reflection. We're going to put all your information in the show notes, Tanya. And I'm sure if you are willing to come back on the podcast, we would love to talk about other things because we know you have
spiritual
so much
stuff.
Yeah, we know that we could go on for 5, 6, 7 hours, maybe like 5 days, right? But today we're just going to leave it at this because we want women to go and check you out as well and check you out on TikTok too, which I check you out on all the time. I might not check you out, you know what I mean? People check you out. Yeah.
We check each other out.
Check out Tanya. But yeah, thank you so, so much. And we will see you all next time on the Hey Soul Sister podcast. Bye for now.